help if I turn the mics on. There we go.
Mic check, mic check.
Yep.
Okay, on to roll call. Commissioner Boyle,
Here.
Commissioner Oler,
She asked to be excused. She is sick.
okay. Commissioner Johnson,
Present.
Commissioner Murray,
Commissioner Murray actually sent an email saying that he's moving out of the city limits, so he has put in his resignation.
We must be
Hard on
people.
Commissioner Zaro,
Here.
Vice Chair Whalen,
She emailed saying she would be unable to be here, asked to be excused, does believe she'll be here for October.
okay. And then Chair Elliott present. So with that, we will excuse, because they called ahead, Oler, Murray, and Vice Chair Whalen.
Motion to excuse.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, moving on to additions, deletions, or corrections to tonight's agenda. Going once. Going twice. All right. Approval of minutes from July 9th, 2025. Oh, sorry, nope, I'm skipping ahead. Public participation. We do have a few members in our audience today, as well as online. You are welcome to approach the podium if you'd like to present any public comment. You also have an opportunity to speak during the public hearing if you'd like as well. Going once, going twice. All right, now on to approval of the minutes for July 9th, 2025.
I wasn't here. Tom.
I move to approve the minutes for July 9th, 2025.
Second.
All right, a motion has been made, it's been seconded. All those, if there's no discussion, we'll move to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes unanimous. All right, and then on to our public hearing. Would you like to
Sure.
just present the two topics?
So tonight before you is first the public hearing, and then later under the agenda action items, it would be on for recommendation to the city council, is the draft 2025 update to the comprehensive plan. Basically, there are two updates. I realize I did not include the second half, but I did last meeting. It's just the updates to the 6-year capital facilities. So that was presented was sent out in last month's packet. It's just basically the Public Works Department went through and updated the 6-year plan, because obviously we pushed ahead 6 years, and it will match their individual utility comprehensive plans. The second item is an amendment to the future land use map. And that's the reason why you see East Pierce Fire and Rescue here as well, is they have been purchasing property with the intent to build a fire station here in Milton. This has been kind of an ongoing process. There was a brief study done between the city and the fire department to see if maybe we could do a joint facility. That came back unfeasible. So they are moving ahead with their own facility. So the proposal is to change those particular properties, which are now all owned by East Pierce Fire and Rescue, to community facilities. And then the second half of that will be the next hearing and request for recommendation, which will be the zoning, which will make basically fire and emergency service facilities a conditional use permit in the community facilities zone. So.
So with that, the time is 6:05. I call this public hearing for agenda item 6A for PLN 2025-0005 comp plan annual update items open. Do we have any public comments? Come on up. Please state your name and
I think we're doing city of, yeah.
Yeah, city of residents.
Good evening. My name's John Parkinson. I'm the fire chief of East Pierce Fire and Rescue located in Bonnie Lake. I just want to thank you for your consideration tonight. I know you just heard a summary of what you're being asked to review and consider. This has been a multi-year project for East Pierce Fire and Rescue to both acquire the land and then make sure that we have the funding to build a fire station here in Milton. Just a couple of years ago, we finally, for the first time, started staffing the Milton Fire Station in the parking lot here 24/7, 365. However, as you're probably well aware, the city of Milton does need the space to grow into, and needs that space to move into in the long term, and needs us to find another location to operate our fire station out of. So as you heard, we've acquired the land already. We have the funding set aside to now move the project forward. So, just procedural hurdles that we need. That's all that I have, but appreciate your consideration.
Great, great. Any further comment? Going once? All right, it is 6:06. I call this public session closed.
So the second public hearing deals with the annual zoning update. It does include the changes to the zoning map that would match the comprehensive plan amendment for that land. It also includes a few other minor things that are just meant to be corrections or oversights from the last major update. So listed on page 9, there's been some kind of confusion, discussion of when we're dealing with an accessory dwelling unit, the intent is that it is a permanent structure. As staff has had some people pushing back thinking that it could be a RV or a other kind of mini house on wheels that's more of a temporary portable thing. And so staff is requesting that we amend this. I actually apologize, it should be and meets all of the codes of a permanent structure, including a permanent foundation. So that is being requested to be amended for 1708255 in the definitions. Under the use table, as stated, to add the fire and emergency facilities as a conditional use permit under community facilities. Conditional use permit would require a public hearing. It allows the public to have a neighborhood meeting to discuss the project and maybe bring up any concerns ahead of time. It also requires a public hearing before the hearing examiner. It's a great way for something like this that it does have unique, it's a unique project. You don't have very many fire departments or fire facilities, so staff feels that's the appropriate review process for that. And then the second one is just, the business district is the area that is just along Pacific Highway. It's currently allows all similar uses. I think the intent, looking at my notes, it seems like vehicle repair should have been in there. I believe there's already some vehicle repair through there, so there's definitely vehicle sales and different stuff. So again, staff feels like that was something that should have carried over from the previous. And then again, the good thing about code is you can amend it as need be as things get brought up. When we're dealing with the temporary signage, and I want to clarify this for everybody, is 1750-140 is temporary signage. And so we require temporary signage on private property to be 100 feet apart on the same property line if it provides the same information. I believe the intent of the Planning Commission that would have been the same for in the right-of-way. It doesn't specifically say that, so this would add under the temporary signage in the right-of-way section that it has to be within 100 feet along the same property line, providing the same information. So if you're in if there is two properties that are next door and they're each only 50 feet wide, they each could have one sign, but you can't have 3 signs in front of one property that all say the same thing. Again, trying to cut down on the clutter but at the same time, allow people to have their, the signage for different events and stuff, so. And then, as already stated, the last one would have been the zoning map, so.
Okay, great. So it is 6:10. I call to order the opening of the public hearing for PLN 2025-0006 zoning code annual update items. Any comments from the public? Once. All right, it is 6:11. I call this public hearing closed. All right, and that takes us on to agenda item 7A.
So staff is recommendation to the council on both of these issues that we just held on the public hearing. So
Do we act on those before we move on?
Oh, do
So
I?
it's first just up for discussion,
I was going to make a motion, right?
or
Oh,
if we're
we
ready
could
to go right.
can make a
well,
motion, yeah.
Yeah, if everyone
Make the
feels.
motion? Is it this one? Yes. I move to recommend to the city council the draft 2025 updates to the comprehensive plan as presented and discussed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to recommend the city council the draft 2025 updates to the comprehensive plan as presented and discussed. Has been motioned and seconded. Do we have any discussion on the topic?
I think it's an improvement. I'm glad that East Pierce was able to get that property and that we are putting it as a community facility. And I think, you know, we have the one time during the year to make big changes to the comp plan. And so this is good, no problem for me. And the fact that we're doing zoning also helps in my mind.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been kind of looking forward to this project moving forward. I just had a couple questions about, this is just for the zoning of this, or when we did our comp plan before, we had the zoning map with the different neighborhood districts and the things that we changed on 99 and made that, didn't we make that business district? Is that included in this?
So I just highlighted this specific area. So basically, it is the so some of the town center properties and some of one of the residential properties is what's going to be changed to community facilities. So nothing else on the map will change.
Oh, and so all the changes we made with the comp plan are already in there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Yep,
clarifying.
they're already there. This is just changing that map a little bit.
And then by moving this to, this is maybe the dumbest question of the night, but by moving this to a community facility zoning, does that exempt them from property taxes, or how does that work out?
The zoning won't exempt them, the facility will exempt them.
Oh, okay. Understood. And that's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay?
Any questions at all or comments? I think my only question about this was, does this designation exempt them from some of the design standards we're talking about for the neighboring zone?
It does put them in different design standards. But we have been going through and having discussions of,
Like that
they
they're
still have
op-
design standards.
That
so-
they're open to incorporating the look and feel we're going for Old Town or whatever it is we're calling
Yeah.
that district? Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion? Going once, twice? All right, with that, again, we've got a motion to move to recommend to the City Council the draft 2025 updates to the comprehensive plan as presented and discussed. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes unanimous. Okay,
So this is the second half of so for the annual zoning updates. The intent is not to have anything that is outside of the map change to make it in compliance with what we did on the comp plan, but it's not, huge policy changes. It's more just, like I said, the sign code just sort of clarifies what I think the original intent was. The definition, again, expanding the definition to make sure that it is, when I have somebody question me, it's very clear.
Okay, great. So with that, we can open up for discussion first or go straight for motion, whatever you guys feel.
Curiosity question, who's responsible for enforcing that no one puts two signs within 100 feet of each other in front of their house?
That would be the community development department, mine.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
Go get them.
Yeah. Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, so we are talking about 7B, right?
Correct.
Just to be on track. You all didn't get the email yet, so I'm just going to go over mine real quick, my questions that I had.
Yeah, we did get your email, but yes, feel free to,
Huh?
I said we did get your email, but yes, go
Okay,
through that.
thanks.
Yeah.
On page 9, I like the addition now of including permanent foundation with being a permanent structure. The question I have, are tiny homes considered? They don't move, they're put on a foundation. So
That's-
can they be allowed like an ADU?
So that's actually where some of this came out of, is a property owner that disagreed with my assessment on tiny homes. So potentially a tiny home could be, but this was the idea, but it needs to be put on similar to a manufactured home. It has to be on a permanent structure, has to be permanently hooked up, has to demonstrate that there's different criteria. Some criteria is RV criteria, which is temporary approval because they're done in factories. Our LNI does regulate and permit some tiny homes that could be made permanent, but that's the idea, is that they have to demonstrate that they have the proper registration and licensing from LNI, that can be used as a permanent home, and then they have to be on a permanent structure. And so you can't just roll something in and then roll something out.
Okay, the other question is, that's good to know, because when we look at the new movement of taking the storage containers and people are converting them into small homes because of the economy and everything, and moving to their parents' property or moving somewhere, would that be allowed if it was put on a permanent structure and had hookup and everything?
Again, it would have to, the remodel of it
Okay, right.
would have to meet all of the criteria that would be in the International Residential Code.
Okay.
So obviously, there are people, we convert garages right now, but they have to permit, they have to then increase the insulation, they have to put in the right energy code, all of the fire safety stuff. So theoretically, yes, but they would have to go through the process to make it a permanent structure, not just I'm living in a shed or I'm living in a.
Okay. Then under the use table, I'm glad to know that the business concept is only on the PAC area, because when you said vehicle repaired is allowed, and I thought, wait, do we have more than one business area? I didn't look up everything. And I thought, because of home occupations, that there has to be some clarity that.
They're not allowed in the residential zone.
Right, okay, that's good on that. I like very much the temporary signs change, and that does also mean political signs, because they're a temporary sign, correct?
Yes, under our code, political signs are the same as any other temporary sign. And they have to follow all of those rules. The only exception with political signs is then any other temporary sign is so there's a slight difference between the U.S. Supreme Court and the Washington State Supreme Court on when a sign can be put up. So the U.S. Supreme Court says you have to treat all temporary signs, election, churches, anything that's a nonprofit, the same. And so like ours says a sign can be up for 120 days. The state Supreme Court says political signs have to come down 10 days after an election, and there's really no start date per se for when they can put them up if they feel that they're going to run for a position. So in theory, they could be up more than 120 days, but the 120 days, I believe, covers from when you can first register through the election. So it's pretty close to what somebody says. And either way, they would have to take it down after the election within 10 days.
Page 19, I noticed that in some of
That's the next item,
Oh, it is. Wait a
planning
minute.
commissioner.
Wait a minute.
So we can, you want to wait on that one?
That thought.
Yep, that's 7C. I'm done. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Any other comments on agenda item 7B? We're on page 9 and 10 of the packet. Yes, Commissioner Boyle.
Sometimes this is a little bit off the spectrum a little bit, but when they say that a manufactured home is a permanent structure, it's just kind of not true. Basically, if it came in on wheels, it could leave on wheels. I believe they leave the framework and everything that it comes in on. But, so that could be an argued point. But is it going to be included that it has to have a foundation?
Yes, so I did, when I was looking, because I'm taking this to the city council next month, or next meeting, I realized that I was kind of re-looking at everything. And so, yes, I would like it to say, and meets all of the codes of a permanent structure, including a permanent foundation, which that matches what we require for manufactured homes under the single-family housing. So. And any house, I mean, theoretically, you could move any house if you want to, but that definitely makes it, and they have to attach it, there's certain requirements in the building code that
I
they
think
have
it-
to do.
I think it gives it clarity by having the foundation in there, and it shows more intent. So we're gonna amend this to including a permanent foundation?
Yep.
And then I'm trying to picture in my mind, trying to cover all the bases with temporary signs is, like if you have a property such as the Faith Family Church, for example only, is, their property's more than 100 feet. It's on somewhat of a curve. And so they would not be able to advertise their events from one end of the property to the other. They could only have, unless they were 100 feet apart.
Yeah, so if they, and this is the temporary signs, the little ones. So yeah, if they had a sign that says daycare opening, they would have to do 100 feet, just do another one that says daycare opening.
Gotcha.
Now, if they had one that says daycare opening and another one says
Daycare closing.
join us for a picnic,
Right.
then those are two different informations, then they could have two signs. They could
Okay.
have two of each.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Zarro, any comments? Yeah, all right.
I move to recommend to the City Council the draft 2025 annual update to the zoning code as presented and discussed with the revision of including a permanent foundation.
Second.
All right, a motion has been made and it's been seconded. One last chance for discussion. Going once, going twice. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, passes unanimous. All right, I think those are the agenda items that you guys are most interested in. You are welcome to stick around, but I will not be offended if you want to sneak out, because.
Hey,
course.
thank you for all you do for us.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Much needed. Discussion.
All right. Like me to move forward?
Yes, please, agenda item 7C, please.
All right, so 7C is, so as part of our previous due in 2024 comprehensive plan periodic update, you are also required to update your critical areas ordinance. There is a a little caveat in that that says if you are substantially complete, certain parts can take a little bit longer. So for us, we were substantially complete in that we had the comp plan and the zoning updates all done in January. And so we sort of have till the end of this year to get the critical areas ordinance updated. So basically the Department of Ecology and Department of Commerce provides us sort of a checklist that says these are the things, and I apologize, I don't know that I included it, but it basically just says, go through your code and make sure these are the most recent definitions that we want, make sure you've done this or that, and you kind of go through and say, yes, I have, no, I haven't, and then you kind of know what you have to update. And then I have went ahead, normally I don't necessarily send it out real early, but I have already sent this to the state review. There's a 60-day review for any zoning, land use, subdivision, or critical ecology changes. Sometimes if it's something just that's really local, you know, something like if we were changing our sign code, I can request a 14-day review because nobody's that concerned whether we have signs that. In this case, obviously, they're going to want the 60-day review, and I suspect they may have suggestions, so I wanted to get that out already, so hopefully, and I've gotten letters from a couple of the departments saying, we're reviewing yours right now, we'll hope to get your stuff in a month. So tonight is simply just to let you know that this is coming. My hope is to be able, my plan is to have this in October as part of, for the public hearing and recommendation. If the ecology, wildlife, any of the state departments come back with suggestions, I will try to incorporate those. The main things, again, I did break down, if you're starting on 14, the definitions were all just one giant, which means anytime you amend one of those, you would have to amend that whole huge section. So I went ahead and put in that we would divide those into alphabetical letters. So if we end up needing to add something in the A section, we don't have to do the whole thing. We can just amend that little section. It's just, yeah. And so, and then I went through and I tried to make sure that anything in the definitions reverts back to what the state has, usually in the WACs, or they specifically said, we want you to use this definition. So I believe all of those match. And then the actual documents I went ahead and I don't normally include the whole document. I probably should have included more in the last one, I apologize. But
33.
thank you. On 33 is the actual critical area section. It goes through several different parts. So the first part is sort of the generic general provisions of that you have to do when you have to do what's called a critical areas report. So any big projects that we believe that there might be wetlands, steep slopes, floodplains, anything to that effect, we require them to do a critical areas report. They have to hire a biologist that's specialized in that. There are a few things that are exempt. If it's an emergency, if it's already, there's some exceptions for single family homes. There's some partial exceptions. None of those appear to needed updating. So starting on page 40 was again, this started adding some of the language that either I saw that other jurisdictions were updating or the state required. So like the idea, sometimes we do, so like on page 40, the B is a brand new section. Sometimes a property, they know they have a lot of maybe wetlands or something that hits this. You don't really know what is buildable until you do sort of a critical areas report. So sometimes the property owner who's trying to sell will have a critical areas report done. They want to get the city to sign off on that so they can then sell it with the idea of here, the city has already signed off. This is how much is buildable. This is the mitigation you'd have to do. And so this language basically says the city can do that, but it's only valid for 5 years. So it sort of gives the parameters on how and when we would review that ahead of time. Page 41, the idea of no net loss, that's a new requirement from the state. This idea that there are times when you do need to, maybe you're adjusting different things, but the idea of no net loss. So maybe you're encroaching over here, but you're going to improve and expand over here. So if they can determine, and net loss may be square footage, it also may be quality. Maybe it's really poorly, it's got a lot of invasive species, so we're going to let them encroach over here, but they are going to get rid of all the invasive species over here, and they're going to make it a much better, higher quality. So sometimes it's square footage, sometimes it's the quality of, in most cases, you're talking wetlands, but not always. Again, just some better language. Mitigation sequencing is that idea of if a development wants to or feels that they need to encroach, they have to go through a certain process that says, well, ideally, we'd like you to not encroach at all. And then it's like, okay, if you feel like you need to encroach, you have to kind of justify it, and then these are the steps. The ultimate is something like the state highway, where they literally are having to go through wetlands, so they are having to build wetlands somewhere else. That's like the least resort. And sometimes you can, or certain businesses will pay into a fund. And like, so I don't think Pierce County has anything right now, but like King County, you can pay into a fund and that they are using to build wetlands in certain areas. And so it's kind of credits. So this basically goes through that, and that's a requirement. So then, like I said, there's not a lot that I didn't feel like we had to. I will see what they come back on. A lot of it was more in the definition section. So at that point, I will, if there's any questions.
So I think, do we just want to kind of tackle a little bit of a section at a time so we can first get into definitions? Are there any questions or comments? That'd be pages 13 through 32.
I have a general question.
Yeah,
I'm
Commissioner
wondering how much of this is actually up to us and how much is word for word from the state? Like, is it worth us going through every paragraph and?
I don't think so. I mean, a lot of this is kind of prescriptive from the state.
Yeah.
So that's as far as I can tell, our buffers are correct, our mitigations are right. A lot of this is that. So I don't know that we have a lot of flexibility or that we would know enough expertise to know
Right.
what it should be if it's different. So if there's any general questions on it, if you feel like you kind of want to scan through it and have things, that's fine. But I don't have the expertise myself to always, what I am doing is looking at what does the WAC say, what are the various state departments telling me. I did look at Pierce County, they recently updated theirs, so I went through theirs to see if there was any language that would help us. So I don't know that there's much we would be able to suggest, but it does have to come through you guys.
Yeah. Yes, Commissioner Boyle?
So we do fortunately have them reviewing it now. And so possibly before we take any action on that, we'll have their input on,
That's my hope.
yeah. And then, are we doing questions?
Yeah, please.
We're still on definitions. This appears that the definitions are basically housekeeping items. I didn't see any major changes or anything. It's just kind of a housekeeping type.
Yeah, that's, like I said, it was all,
Thanks with their changes. Yeah.
Commissioner Johnson, I think you had.
Yeah, on the definitions, I like the aspect they're broken down that way because you may be looking for something with an H and you can go to it quickly. The only one thing I noticed here that's different in some of the other areas, on page, you start off on page 16, under critical aquifer, you do list the WAC 365-190, but in some of the other changes to the definitions, like on 19, you took it out. So I'm wondering why, and on, at the top, fish and wildlife, The blue had the WAC 365-90, but the references to the Washington Area Code or Washington Administrative Code were taken out on certain areas, but left on page 16. Was there a reason?
It may be that it moved, or it may be that I just, when I was focused on that area, I handled it differently. So I will research if, and look at those.
Just to follow up with some conversations in the
Yeah,
past
no,
with
and get back
others.
if
with
there was a
me.
reason I did that one and not the others.
Yeah.
I know it seems like one or two of the sections moved, but that doesn't mean I couldn't.
Put the new
Put the
code
new ones in,
Yeah,
so.
just to be safe when it goes to
Yep.
council. But that's all I have on the
Okay.
definition. So good job, though.
I had just a few things that I flagged, if it's okay. So like page 15, aquifer recharge areas, and it's kind of the same examples as kind of where I noted before, is we got rid of the recharge areas are classified as follows, and high, moderate, and such, and low. Is there a reason we got rid of the types?
Partially because it felt like it didn't belong in the definition. It seemed like that was more of a, once you're analyzing it side, and those can change,
Okay.
and it seems like that wasn't listed in the state definitions. So, there we go, aquifer. Yeah, because it seemed like that's not definition to me as much as, like I said, those are classifications. Usually classifications are more in the heart of it,
Okay.
not in the, and again, they may change depending on what's the most recent book that they have to look at
Okay,
as
so-
reference. So that was my thinking.
Okay, so the intent is just to basically provide the definition, but then
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
push them to the source as far as the classifications within it? Okay. Page 16, critical aquifer recharge areas. I just noticed that we removed the WAC 365-190-0802. Is that just basically to update it to 190, or was that or 190-030?
I want to say that's one that changed, so, but I will double check that one as well.
Okay. Erosion hazard areas on page 18 was kind of the same thing, that I was just asking why it was low, moderate, and high, but it sounds like, again, that was also just pushing them to the source.
Yeah, because I know that things change and those levels change, and sometimes, like, I know one of them, that used to be that they use this book manual from the federals now, or the state, and then they change it. So it felt like if we put too much in here, we might be not in compliance.
Perfect. Next page, 19, I had flagged and kind of highlighted. So within fish and wildlife habitat conservation areas, it's kind of mid-paragraph there, but it says counties and cities may also designate locally important habitat and species. I guess, is that something we need to dig into a little bit? Is that something new, and is that something that the city actually wants to take on, or should we be?
So again, the definition is from, I'm assuming it's from the WAC, and that's their definition. I do not believe we currently have anything. It is something, and I don't know if we have anything that is of local importance, but if we chose to look into that, we could.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't a loophole to allow. Okay. And then in more classes, but that's okay because we already discussed that. Those are my questions and comments. Was there any other questions or comments within definitions? And then we can take it into critical areas. And I also want to say, I do appreciate and hearing the reasoning behind breaking all of the definitions by letter. Makes total sense and probably saves you a lot of work later in the long run if we ever have to do more updates, so.
And just on a comment, I'd rather do the opposite in the zoning, because the zoning, every single definition is its own little thing, and that gets a little cumbersome. But
Switch it
that's
to
okay.
where it's by letters.
But that would
by-
be more
instead
work,
of-
so we're just leave it
Okay.
alone.
Yeah. All right, critical areas, Article 1, that's kind of pages 33 through 49. I think the only thing really added was the whole no net loss portion of it. But did anyone have any questions or comments about that? Yes, Commissioner Johnson.
Page 40. Curious as to why we changed the pre-application from is encouraged to rather than shall. Is because you want to wait till the permanent comes in?
I don't believe you can require pre-application meetings anymore.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions or comments about critical areas?
Same line on page 40, the definition, next one down, be 18.16120B. It says the department shall review and make a written determination of the presence and yada, 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 the classification. Who is the department?
So the department would be the Community Development Department, and then I subcontract with our wetland biologist consultant.
So should we
Do you want me to?
maybe clarify which department?
Sure.
maybe? See, I figure if I don't understand it, there's gotta be somebody else out there. I think that's it. No more questions. Thanks.
Commissioner Zarro, any?
The net area, that's a state requirement?
I did have one more.
Yeah, go for it.
Now, the no net loss, the intent of that is trees go out, trees go back, is the basics
Say what
of
again?
what you're trying to, and same thing, wetland mitigation. If you're taking this out, you gotta put that there. That's what no net loss is, the
Yeah.
intent.
Yeah, and like I said, sometimes that means actual square footage. Sometimes it means maybe you're removing a really low-quality wetland, but you are willing to take another low quality and make it a high quality.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. I just want to make sure I
Yep.
understood.
But yeah, it's the idea that in the end, you feel like you haven't lost something.
I guess I should have went to the definitions and I would have understood.
Well, if it's not in the definitions, then I better put it in. There's also that. This is why it's good to have you guys.
All right, Article 2, wetlands.
Let's see,
That's page 49 through 58.
49 through 58. I think I'm going crazy because I thought, I read this 2 days ago, and I forgot to mark it down. I thought there were 2 paragraphs in there that had a colon and said the following items and list, and there is no list, and I'm still trying to find it.
That appeared in the design standards part.
Thank you, okay, all right. We work together well. Because the only one I have is on page 75, and this is just a language thing, it's that 640, number A, shall be prohibited from habitat conservation areas. Is that,
What page?
page 75?
75.
And shouldn't it, shall be prohibited in instead of from? I don't I mean, it's just minor, believe me.
18,
Catch me up
16.
again. Where are we?
Oh, no,
Page 75.
A, alterations prohibited land development and use shall be prohibited from habitat conservation areas. I think it should say in.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't, yeah, that's fine.
All right. I think after wetlands, they're all a bit shorter, so is there anything else as far as Articles 3, 4, 5, or 6? That'd be pages 59 through 82? Yes,
Nope.
Commissioner Boyle?
Nope, I'm taking it back to definitions just to make a clarification.
Which
that
page?
Page 17, the department is defined in the definitions,
Oh,
yet No net loss is not.
I will work on that net loss one.
Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
So on page 67, under geological hazardous areas, the Washington State Department of Natural Resources encouraged us to put something in that says, hey, we have information, we have database. So to let people know that there are resources out there. So I didn't, they have a specific website, but I figure website names change, so this was more kind of generic, but hopefully let them know that they can go there for assistance.
Yeah. Cool.
And then Fish and Wildlife is Article 5. And then the last one, frequently flooded areas, for now is under the flood damage prevention, which is under the building code section. So it just says go there. So,
Good job. Good job, good job.
All right, that's, any last questions, discussions, follow-up tasks regarding agenda item 7C?
I think just wait for comments from
Okay.
reviewers.
yep, so like I said, my hope is to bring it back in October.
All right, well, great work. All right, on to agenda item 7D, which is amendments to Title 1743, Design Standards and Guidelines. And I think this was specific to multifamily areas.
Yeah, so some of the stuff is, so, 2 months ago, we discussed, basically we're starting, just a refresher for everybody, we're starting with our uptown design guidelines for the most part, and then looking at if we want to expand those into some of the other zones for commercial, office buildings, mixed use, and then for maybe apartment complexes. So what I pulled out here is those sections that just specifically apply to the multifamily that are not townhouses. For the most part, townhouses, some of those things would apply to townhouses, but townhouses kind of have that single-family feel because they're just happen to be attached. These, a lot of these would be more for like your traditional apartment multifamily housing. Some of them are the same, like pedestrian walkways, slope treatments, stairs, that kind of stuff. But then as you get into, I think it kind of gets more into page 90 and 91. Specifically 91, it gets into the actual building location, the idea of corner features, blank walls, side screening. So it's all very similar. The idea is to give it a little more choices, a little more requirements to make them have a little bit better feel, a little bit more usable, so that it's a good project for those that end up living in it. So happy to, if there's any parts of these that you want to discuss, and then kind of maybe going forward, it's a large chunk of stuff. I feel like maybe the next step is to kind of, if we're feeling like, yes, we like the idea of using the uptown, this is what it's got, is putting it in a single kind of chunk document that would apply to all the different zones, and then kind of go from there. But specifically, we can start with if there's any comments.
Yeah, let's open it up to the group. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to start?
First, we can go
Oh, okay.
ourselves first.
Commissioner Zarro.
Commissioner Boyle first.
Okay, I will.
The pressure now, the pressure.
Share evenly.
So, yeah. So a couple things I was just thinking about randomly, and I noticed that we've been putting, I don't want to say cramming, but we've been doing our parking behind the buildings generally. Just wondering if that could become security issues, but I guess that's up to the property owners. So that would be one of my concerns. But I like the idea of it, and also I very much like the idea, and I hope this is going to be required, is the screening techniques for like dumpsters and recycle things, and so I'm going to be really big on that. But generally, this is an improvement, and we have to encourage people to, developers to stay with the times, shall we say. Let's move forward. As much as we like to call it Old Town or Midtown Old Town or whatever, there's a, some people think that Old Town might mean rundown, but we hope that's not the case, so.
Real quick, realizing one of Commissioner Johnson's questions relates to the fact that you weren't here at the previous one when I went through how I structured it. So what I included was the intent and the standards, but I didn't include like all the options. So that's why you see those little colons. And so I felt like this is kind of like, this is the higher level, and then it'll say things like, you can choose from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but I felt like for space and for processing on brain, I left those off.
I think the whole idea is good. I don't see it happening in my lifetime in the area. I think, we think of when we look, when we look at the future and you look at sci-fi and stuff, how cities change and everything, I think looking at this, I feel good because we used to have what do you call it, wanted to go with lateral parking
Angle parking,
on the
yeah.
street. And I remember the first time, I think it was in Tacoma, and it was a lateral, but you had to back into it. And I thought, how in the hell do you back into a space that's a lateral and there's people coming down the road? And that's in Tacoma. And so the slanting type I don't like. I think the idea, the one question I have, I don't know what you mean by expansion of floor area. Is that within the building or the concept of the lot?
So expansion of floor area would be that you are doing an actual addition and the footprint is growing.
That's right, okay. And the aspect of pedestrian walkways, I think, are so important because, sometimes I wish Safeway had built a little bridge over the go-through because it's so hard in shopping centers, the way they're developed, that you have a passing lane right in front of the store when people are trying to park and then come across to the shopping center. It's very dangerous in a crowded time. But having the walkways, the example you used with the path, having something that somebody can it's very good. The lighting's important. Everything in this, I think, is positive. And the parking in the back doesn't disturb me too much, depending on the lighting and the opening. And I have to say, when I go into the Commons, I'd rather park in the front than in the back when you're over behind Target or, in certain areas. I don't, because there's less people, because everybody parks in the front. I think this is a very good start for us to have a design standard that everybody needs to follow and to help the city have a welcoming presence and sort of conformity in styles with the businesses. And we're talking really only the businesses in the shopping centers and like the business neighborhood area, right?
So that's the question is, do we want to extend this to all zones that do all of our business commercial zones? And anything that does multifamily?
Okay, yeah.
And then I guess the other side is, does it need to apply to I would assume it doesn't apply to the manufacturing.
Okay.
Unless we have two alternatives. You can do it by zone, or you could do it by, the building portion, you could do per type of building. If they're putting in if you're putting in a warehouse, it doesn't make sense to do a lot of this. If they're putting in car lot, maybe it does, or,
Well, is there one question that Milton would want to say? What is the image and the view we want to present as a city? Do we want everything to look different, or is there a tone that we want in apartment buildings and in businesses? You have to give some flexibility in single family. But that's, some cities have a personality based on the buildings in the city.
and this will, the hope is to provide within those broad categories and those standards, some flexibility so they don't all look the same, but the idea that that you're creating a place that people feel like, okay, I can safely walk,
Right.
and there's some vegetation and there's some landscaping and some ideas like that. So,
Well, the one thing I want to insist on is that there should not be any vegetation that blocks egress from a parking lot if you're trying to turn left or right, because we have that problem in this city.
yeah,
And
and it's not supposed to.
No, they're supposed to have no higher than 4 feet, like
Yeah,
back 20
there's the
feet.
and
visual
then the other
triangle.
thing is, how about is 10, I saw the most interesting building recently. The wall outside was not wood. It was tin that looked like metal that looked like wood. So, I mean, it was absolutely, I didn't know they made the metal to look just like wood.
Where is this?
I can't tell. But I think it's great. And I'm thinking is that, the reason I bring that up is because on page 93, we talk about buildings. And I could see apartment buildings having something like that if it just, because wood's so expensive now, and someday we're not going to have it maybe. And so they're doing so much with, what is it, planking and different, is that what they call it? But I just thought it was wood, and it was not wood.
Yeah, there's some Allura panels and stuff like
Yeah.
that, like stone panels that
Yeah.
look really nice.
And don't get me wrong, I want flexibility. I don't want to be a homeowners association for the city. But, it's keeping it friendly, open, and nothing where a person could be pulled to the side into an alley, things like that. And I'm done. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Boyle.
Couple comments that you had brought up, Director. It was car lots. If we were going to have a car lot, how could you encourage parking in the rear when all the cars are going to be in the front?
I think side is an option as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Let me
Go to,
pop up. I'm thinking, let me double check the use table.
and if it
This isn't
applies,
allowed, would you have a car lot in a multifamily or mixed-use structure? So,
No, but we were talking about doing it like in the uptown. It gets a little challenging when you do things like car washes, let me tell you.
just a side note, I curb shotted the new car wash with my wheel.
uh-oh.
I was telling everybody, be careful coming out of there, that curb.
Yeah.
It's a turn and you're gonna get it, and I got it. So.
Get it?
Yeah, I heard my wife on the camera when the guy came to fix it, said, I didn't do it, was the first thing she said. I didn't do it. So what about, and this may go beyond of what we're talking about is, and sometimes it's forgotten and sometimes it's not, and it's becoming more prevalent, is EV charging stations. And, I mean,
supposed
that's
to
more,
have 'em.
it's more in parking requirements, I'm sure.
It's in the code for E EV.
Yeah, we limit that there.
Some part
So,
of energy code now for the new.
There's an EV
Yeah.
code in there.
yeah, yeah, and I think we, let's see,
Did I hear a rumor they're going in up by Safeway?
So I'd have to look exactly how the electric vehicle, we allow it in certain aspects. When we allow it, I think, as an accessory, not as a primary. Yeah, so like if, Safeway wants to have a couple EVs, that's fine, but you couldn't just have one lot you're trying to make money off of it or something, is
So
how we
you
have it.
can't the
Essentially
city
have like
can't,
a gas station of EV
like, say they have
chargers.
100 parking spots, the city can't require two.
We could, we don't currently,
Oh,
but we could. I don't think we've gotten to that point yet. So, okay, looking through this, my thinking is, it makes sense for the town center mixed use, the uptown mixed use, and the neighborhood commercial. It probably doesn't make sense yet for manufacturing or business, partially because the business, we're hoping in the next year or two to have like a sub-area plan where we would figure out what it looks like.
And where STP is
So
going.
I would say, and then if the, and then the, yeah, so the, and the so the urban residential, multifamily, town center, uptown, and neighborhood commercial, that it would apply to those 4 zones. I'll work on kind of a new one and basically take our existing uptown and sort of make it more expansive, try to incorporate what I've heard over the last couple meetings and over the last couple year or two as people have talked design. That's going to take time, and as my new buzzword is, competing priorities in my life.
right, so this is not a rush on this, and plus we'd have the opportunity to hear from our other commissioners too, because they
Yeah.
weren't here
So
last time.
it's
either.
possible I won't bring this back till probably, I'm thinking at this point, January, as crazy as this year is flying by. Obviously, in October, I'll bring back the critical areas. I could possibly, I'll look and see what other, if there's something else that makes sense. Or maybe we take November and December off. Did I say that out loud? No.
With the part that Commissioner Boyle brought up about the covering of trash bins and stuff, there's nothing we can do at this point on businesses that are in existence of putting a blinder around, not garbage, but
Not
stuff.
without them changing something. And so that is one thing I've heard, is we would like to find ways to sort of cause some improvements. And usually that's tied to, they come in and they're going to expand, they're going to improve, they're going to remodel. Then sometimes we can require them to then upgrade certain other things. So I will look for those opportunities that we can build in here that says, you know, great, you're going to remodel and it's going to, whether it's based on value, but based on square footage, based on the percentage of the lot, something, and then say, okay, with that, you will need to improve these certain areas.
So for now, they're kind of grandfathered in.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically build in triggers. So I'll look for some triggers that we can build in. I know, like, I know that it's been a big discussion about some sort of pedestrian in like the Safeway complex, the
Yeah.
ACE complex, of getting some pedestrian crosswalks or
Striping or something.
stripe, yeah, whether, even if it's just striping and slightly raised or something to give people a better, safer feel. So again, we need those things to trigger. And so we'll look for those as well.
Yeah. Did you have any comments yet, Commissioner Zaro?
I am wondering, historically, has the city hired an architect or an design consultant to look at this as a whole and provide feedback? I feel like we each have our own taste and priorities, and it's so difficult to list them all out in a way that comes across effectively. I don't know how realistic that would be, but, you know, a professional.
So that's kind of why I'm sort of using, so whenever they did the Uptown Design Guidelines, that would have been done by a consultant. And that's sort of why I'm starting with that, with the idea that I think it could expand. And so, and then again, yeah, and some of it is to add options so their personal, you know, each project can have a little bit of, but, you know, things like, you know, you can't have a solid wall more than so many feet long. You need to break it up with certain things. I do know from my own experience, you know, like I know Furcrest did a minor version of this, and that's where I previously did. So I looked at some of his stuff. So that was kind of my thinking, so that we didn't have to go out, is use what we have and just sort of expand it a little bit or alter it a little bit.
Yeah, it is. That's a very good question because it was consultants that gave this to us and we picked through it and rifled through and it is like, well, I don't like that, but you like that, and you get into that. But there wasn't too much of that because it was such a drastic change from what the city looked like. I mean, we were literally stuck in the 70s. And
Yeah.
so this was probably 2006 or whatever when we did that. And so it's been 20 years. So, I mean, it's different things change, trends come and go, and things like that. So it's good to do something like this. And, you know, we can look at it and go, no, I don't want it to look like Shakey's Pizza. I do not want it to look like that. You know, but in the 70s, you were like, man, Shakey's Pizza looks, that place is cool, you know? So things change and this is good. I don't see any drastic changes, but, you know, you go down to Arizona and things and you can't find a sign to go into Walmart. You have to really look for the signs because everything's low and no neon and, yeah, so there's a lot of areas out there that are like that they
Like
say
near
no,
Sedona, yeah.
be so high and things like that. But anyways, thank you.
All right, I
Thank you
have,
for that question.
yeah, I have a few comments. So on pedestrian pathways, minimum average width, we said something about established specifics. So I know ADA requires 36-inch minimums as long as you have a 60-foot return every 60 feet or something like that. So I don't know if we just want to reference ADA standards so that we just always stay in there, or if we want to, so that's page 86, where it's red and says established specifics, or I'm okay with just saying like 36 or 60. The rest of my highlights were a little bit of double checking. Oh, switching over to page 91 for screening techniques. So that's number 3 on page 95. We put 100% site obscuring. I'm wondering if we should reduce that to like 80 or 85, just because I didn't know if 100% was realistic. That was just my random. I don't know if anyone's okay with that.
I think that picture below of the fence, I wouldn't call that 100%, right?
Sorry, what are we on?
Page 91,
91, sorry.
screening techniques is the third down. We just said screening shall be 100% site obscuring. I'm just wondering if we should reduce that to like 85%, just so that it's reasonable.
So I guess the question there is, do you want, like, the picture on the left is like, it's just a wall of some sort?
Yeah.
Or versus the one on the right where it's just a fence and that really doesn't screen anything. So,
Like a chain link with privacy slats in it. And I guess to me, I was just thinking that there are situations where I'd be okay with that. Or if it's a perforated panels or something like that, then I just want to make sure it's
Yeah, I
not
get what you're
so
saying.
restrictive.
The slats are usually the way they go with the chain link and then
Yeah.
you can kind of see what's
Yeah.
in there, but that's about it. So I
Yeah.
don't, is that,
I don't think
is that
yeah.
not, is that not 100%? You know, it's,
Yeah.
I guess I would
See what
just
you're
be too,
saying.
it's not a very,
Attractive.
those don't wear very well. They start looking beat up pretty soon if you're just doing slats and a fence.
Wind blows
versus
them off.
actually having to build a structure, whether that's wooden structure or cement structure. So that was,
Plus, it secures it better in a way too, to keep debris from flying.
I can compare and see what other cities do.
Okay. I just, to me, for some reason, thinking 100% just, I don't think you would push through, like, no, I can see it when I put a lid on that too, or something like that, all of a sudden, because it's like, well, that's downhill, or just something dumb. So that's why I was kind of like, well, just for the sake of long term. moving down to buildings close to sidewalk under multifamily building design, page 91. So this is saying like maximum 10-foot setbacks and stuff like that. Are these setbacks, so I'm thinking of like you're in an apartment building and stuff like that. Are these setbacks just from the right of way, or are these like within the apartment complex, if that makes sense? Because I'm just thinking if you had an apartment complex, it might make sense to allow at least 20 feet, which would be like standard parking stall if you're within it, but I just wasn't sure if the intent,
No, and this
was
is where we get
here.
into that discussion of, is this too much?
because I just know it sucks when you go to a multifamily community and there's no guest parking because they just try to cram in as many buildings. I don't know, so.
The guest
it's very-
parking we'll have to get to when we get to
Yeah.
the parking section.
Yeah, but,
Because that really depends on how many,
yeah, or I am thinking like if it is like a townhouse, for lack of a better term, like sometimes you're gonna have it where it's inset. So I said, I can understand where if we're just trying to get away from the right-of-way stuff, but then once you're within the community, if it's a multifamily complex, maybe allowing
yeah, and that might
more
be.
flexibility.
Let me look into those more.
Okay.
And see, yeah, is it sort of picturing a community that really has streets, and so you want those houses sort of up front because they're townhousey like? But like you said, a more traditional, that may not make sense, so.
Well, if you're gonna require parking in the back, then that puts the building in the front.
Well, when we're talking about like the apartments at Edgewood?
And it encourages.
Well, this is multifamily, so this is covering all multifamily, so that's where I'm trying to make sure, are we talking about just stuff that's abutting the
Well, that's-
right-of-way,
and
or are
do
we
they
talking
have-
within the community?
You know, do they have garages, which would be different than,
Yeah, and it encourages, by having the building close, it encourages the walkability, which is kind of our goal. So I get why it's like that. Same thing, like I've always said, if you look at Uptown Coffee, everything's right up to the sidewalk, and so.
and it is hard to know how much of this is designed for a more urban setting. You know, like if you're in Tacoma,
Yeah.
those apartments are on the sidewalk.
Right.
And then they'll have parking underneath.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily work here, so yeah, there has to be some,
A little give.
a little like, okay, what makes sense for here, where more of what we're getting is, we're gonna do this whole huge acreage, so there's really internal driveway access, but that's not necessarily sidewalks and city streets, so yeah, let's.
Okay, yeah,
I'll
it's just
look
that
at-
as I'm reading this, it's kind of one of those where it's like, am I supposed to read it this way or this way?
Yep.
And we should be clear on
Yeah.
which way we're trying to
And
read that.
we don't want to make regulations that just don't
Make it
apply or
restrictive.
so restrictive
Yeah.
or, so, okay.
Key corners on the next page, page 92.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, does the group have any ideas on what key corners?
That one just blew my mind, it's like, are we talking Yuma, Taylor, and,
I mean, are we just saying like any corner that has a street light because we only have so many?
every corner is
Or-
important. Yeah, that one,
So maybe that's something we chew on a little bit, but I wasn't sure if the group had any idea of any key corners or if we wanted to get rid of that language.
well, I think the business area, definitely. Residential, I mean, I
If you were in
thought,
like the town center or something, it
Right.
probably would make sense.
Like any corners abutting Milton Way or,
Well, again,
okay.
I assume, yeah, so we can bring it back with a map of the different areas and kind of think through.
Okay.
I think, I mean, for me, just right off real quickly, on when you think of standards applying to corners, again, it has to do what we have already in a way, and it's not always areas, the right is keeping the visual down. Everybody has to have not a privacy fence up close to the corner where somebody can't see around it, or grow stuff that you can't see, because at a corner, you're merging, you're coming out. And it would be nice if, we don't have neighborhoods with names. In Milton, we're all just one big neighborhood. So usually in a place that's big and you have subdivisions within the main area, they have the corner coming into this area.
Yeah,
and
the
they have
monument
corner
sign that says,
that area.
yeah.
They do that in Virginia a lot, but we really don't have that in the residential areas. But standards for planning 20 feet away so you can see around the corner is important.
So it sounds like that's something we just need to think about and come back to. And then the next page, 93, we talk about primary residential entrances. So again, I just wasn't sure if we were talking about if this was like the main office lobby entrance, or if this was entrances to all of the residences as far as how that, the intention there.
Must have cut some of my pictures out. Yeah, some of them actually have like, the apartment is along the street and their entrances actually directly go out onto the sidewalk. But I don't know if
That's so urban.
it's very more urban than I think we are. And I don't see us having those streets that would do that. So there's, like I said, so there's parts of these, I mean, it's one thing if you're doing like townhouses or something. But yeah, it does feel like some of these things don't, unless we're really I mean, if someone if we could really redo all of the town center, it could be really cool, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. And so it's going to be piecemealed, and if we're piecemealing it, I don't know how likely that is.
Yeah.
But do we want to put it, are we looking now for the future? So trying to define this is the goal, like the vision aspect, it was done, in 2006, the first vision?
I don't know, somewhere in there.
And maybe it's,
Might have been a little later.
maybe it's providing more guidelines of when things apply and when they don't apply.
Yeah. I think
So like,
that's where,
if
I'm
you're
like,
in
that's
these certain
facing the right of
situations, this would
way.
make sense, but if you're doing this type of, because it kind of says it already, like if it's a townhouse, it doesn't apply. Maybe we need to look and see if there's other types that wouldn't, when would these certain things apply and when they wouldn't.
Yeah, because if I read a lot of this as any entrances that are abutting the right of way or facades on the right of way, then a lot of these standards make sense. But then once you get within a community, if it's 2 or 3 buildings within the community and they're not all facing Taylor or whatever, then it's like, well, I'm not going to be as strict about this stuff because in theory, I'm kind of just driving by it and not walking it as much, or I'm not trying to encourage people to like cut through neighborhoods essentially, So that's what I had for primary residences, is just that it didn't seem like it made sense for individual residence entrances unless there was something specific I was missing. And then materials, I wasn't sure why we were so restrictive on materials on page 95, as far as like, I've seen some really cool buildings that have bigger panels that are larger than 9 square feet. As far as like Sumner High School, we did those big panels. Also same with like reflective glass and vinyl siding. I wasn't sure if there was a specific reason we were trying to specifically state that those weren't allowed in multifamily zones, because those are like reflective glass I could see being used if, let's say, you had like a gym on the first floor, or if you had parking below, and then you move up from there. And then vinyl siding also just for 4 plexes or 10 plexes, that's a good siding material. So I wasn't sure the intent there. Yeah.
That was what's in the Uptown. So
Okay.
this is good to bring up that maybe technology has changed, or is the idea that we just don't want a solid wall, but if it was textured, it would be fine. So yeah, that's a great way something to look at to
Okay.
see if there's some alternatives.
Okay, and then same with like windows section, again, the transparent windows was one where I'm like, well, there's times that you want,
What's transparent windows?
so they're basically saying in here that they need to be transparent, like you can see inside the windows, but there's times that you have like mirrored windows or something like that where you see your own reflection, and I'm thinking, or they have like a security glazing or something so you can't see in.
One-way windows versus
Yeah.
both-way windows.
And when I think of like gyms or personal services or counseling, counseling or eyebrow threading or something, something like that, it's like, I don't necessarily want to see inside every window. So
And we now have sort of window rules a little bit, so,
yeah, so that was again where I
yeah,
just,
we'll have to look at some of that.
or if for some reason we did have residential windows on the first floor, I could totally see someone not wanting people looking into their living rooms, watching football.
You put curtains.
Yeah,
What?
That's why you have curtains.
yeah.
Yes.
But they're
because-
rentals, and then they gotta pay to have that repaired and have those
Because you
holes
can't
patched.
say, reflective glass is not allowed. And
Actually, we
then
do,
it says reflective glass not allowed,
Yep.
right? But then you're gonna take away the transparent windows.
no, we're saying you have to have transparent windows.
Yes. So you can't have reflective glass and transparent windows. Get me?
No.
Because reflective glass you can't see in,
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay? Not allowed, and then transparent windows shall be required. So you can't really change those.
yeah,
Okay.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I got you.
Oh, can I get, while I just
Yeah.
totally interrupted?
nope, you're good.
Can we go back real quick to, the screening?
What page?
Oh, heavy sigh over here.
My back hurts.
She's like, if we must.
Back hurts.
Dan with this guy. Okay,
What page?
sorry, page 91, the screening techniques.
Yep.
Yeah,
When we were talking about the 100% site obscuring, it does say above, they use the terms fully screened, which may be better if we could fit that in there versus 100% site obscuring. Just say fully screened. It's just an option.
yeah.
I just wanted to get that before we got too far. And that's all I got.
Do you want a top on it as well?
What?
A top.
No, the rat's gotta get in and out somehow.
That's true.
Yeah, and I guess we could, with screening techniques, instead of just saying 100%, just say screening shall be site obscuring, and then you can, I don't know.
You can require above screening if it's next to, like if like you had tall apartments, sometimes they do say if it can be seen from up above, you would have to put a top over as well so that they don't have to look down at your garbage
Smell
Watch the
it.
rats eat.
versus at grade, so.
It's something to do with the seagulls or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, those were kind of more my comments, is that I think we need to get with multifamily. I don't know if just copying and pasting straight over from Uptown quite applies unless we're just talking about right away versus within the communities and what the intent. Sorry, that's kind of my overarching thought on that. Okay. Did I have any other comments? Nope, that was it for me. Anybody else? For 7D? Right, once, twice. Okay, on to staff reports.
Reminder that next month is on Tuesday, October 7th, because they start setting up for the craft bazaar on Wednesday.
Okay.
And so this is our one bump. If you do ever mess with our code online, it has been upgraded.
I like it.
You do, hope you do?
Yeah, because you can print right from it. It's so
Yes,
easy.
it's got some nice little, it's got those shortcuts people are used to, like sharing and downloading and stuff. You pop out the tables and stuff. So it's Code Publishing, it's an updated software. On a side note, it's actually got some extra benefits too for staff. we actually have a login, so we have an ability to sort of save things or compare to other cities real easy, or actually even make notes like,
Good.
here, don't forget this other section that also applies or something. So that's been kind of nice.
Cool.
Other than that, nothing new. Definitely quite a few pre-application meetings of possible development, but I don't think we have anything in new for since the last time.
Commissioner reports.
Can I ask her a question?
Sure.
What was your feedback on your booth at Milton Days? Did you have a lot of interest? Same as every year interest?
Actually, so at Milton Days, we had when I told the mayor I was gonna have a tree, she thought I meant like a real tree. I had a bulletin board tree with a bunch of leaves, and we were just asking people to put why trees are important, why they like trees, what's valuable about trees. I had a lot of people engaged, which was really fun. A lot of kids said oxygen, so obviously their science classes are telling them that. But yeah, a lot of real positive stuff about that. Kind of engaged a little bit that we're, wanting to kind of identify our urban, an urban forestry plan. I did find also that it looks like the city adopted an urban forestry plan like 20, 30 years ago. So I will look at that at some point when I have time.
Somebody really draw a chainsaw on one of those leaves.
I do believe someone drew a chainsaw.
I don't know. It's probably some spiky blonde-haired guy always up to something.
So, and then it's always
house was
fun. We
tree
always
lit.
do a map that lets people put where they live or work. And so that was really fun. People got excited. I need to make it, next year, we're going to make it spread out more because we get a lot of people from farther out. I sort of have like Edgewood and Fife, but they really get out to Federal Way and stuff. So we're going to make it a little more distant and stuff. So that was fun too. Yet overall, I thought, it was a great success, and we had a lot of great conversations with people, and I kind of figured it'd be an opportunity for people to complain about stuff, and I don't think I had any complainers, so it was really a positive day.
Check you out. All right. Commissioner reports. I'll start with Commissioner Zarro.
I've got nothing.
Nothing. Boyle?
Yeah, I wanted to thank staff and the powers that be for the development status reports that we get, and also our paper packets. I just love to scribble, and a computer does me absolutely no good. So thank you for that. Milton Days, Milton Days. It was fun. I was just curious from staff how that went for them. It was filled with fun and games and this and that and the other, and weather gave us some challenges on Friday night. People were getting stuck Saturday morning, and tents blowing over and things like that. But it's just part of Milton Days. You never know what's going to happen. And but total success. I can't wait for next year. I had a lot of fun. And there was what else? Oh, can somebody clarify? We said that we're not having an 8:07 meeting or a 10:07 meeting. We're having, what day is our next meeting?
No, it
October
is 10/7.
7th.
Oh, it is October 7th. Okay.
It's Tuesday instead of
It's
Wednesday.
a Tuesday, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Good. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Johnson?
Milton Days was great. The MC was wonderful as always. And it was 1905, but we didn't become a city till 1907 when the post office came.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Didn't
anyway.
I say you were here?
Yeah, I was
okay,
there.
That's what I thought. I thought I got one in there. Now she's trying to get back at me publicly.
I have a question, please. I did enjoy my vacation. Sorry, I had the COVID at one point, and then I went on vacation for 3 weeks, and it reset my mind, so be careful for the rest of the year, right? Parking, when we get to looking at the zoning on parking, will we involve easement aspects with that as well? Where, is that anything that planning can look at regarding easements? Okay, then second
If you're
off,
talking the right of way, that's all parking rules that are done by like the police, enforced by the police department and stuff. That's not really a zoning thing.
so, and so what our parking changes would not, okay, I'll look into that later. Is there any way that we would, in our area, deal with home occupations and the rules required underneath there? I know we have a section in the code that may, I think, needs to be enhanced on home occupations. And is that something we can add to a conversation at the study session to say, is that something we want to look at? Or if anybody sees this as an issue, I've just had a couple people coming to me on some home occupations.
The question would be, are they legal home occupations or they're illegal home occupations? If they're illegal, then it's just a compliance issue and we're probably, so, but if you want to go, I'm happy to meet, to discuss what your concerns are, so we can identify, is it something that I think the code needs to change, or is it something that the code already identifies, and we just are having compliance, and, that we need to continue to violate, so, and if you feel like it is something that the code needs to change, then you could recommend it for the next planning commission work plan.
When we discuss things later on, when we try to pick up next year's topics, right? Okay. There was something else. I'm going to say that's it for tonight, but thanks for the work you did on this. I think the way you've done it, it's been, and all this, again, to go back, the staff was incredible, the public works staff at Milton Days, especially after the flood of Noah that came the night before.
Somebody sent me a picture. Somebody, there was a van stuck in the mud right in the middle of the park.
Yep.
And I was like, really? I don't need this right now. It's only 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But they took care of it. Public Works are awesome.
No comments for me other than maybe welcome here soon. Maybe get a chair here. But yeah, no comments from me. So next meeting again is Tuesday, October 7th